What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Red Cup Review. I'm your host, Rob Banks, and today we're looking at the Harvey Dent Two-Face 2.0 figure from Hot Toys. It's got a couple of nits. There's a ton of videos out there on YouTube already that showcase this figure. However, we're going to be taking a look at how he fits in with the rest of your Dark Knight figures, and we're going to talk about screen accuracy and stuff like that. I personally love toys like this right out of the box. They're very simple to put together, not a lot of complicated parts. I think he looks great. He's not perfect, though. And it kind of leaves that, for those collectors that are really particular, that empty feeling in your stomach where with just a little bit more effort, he could have been the perfect Two-Face. Apparently, I'm supposed to tell you guys to like, subscribe, and share, and join us here on the further adventures of the Red Cup Review. Let's just get on with the review of the figure. Huge 5 out of 5 cups and standing ovation to the art director on the box. I gotta tell you, it perfectly shows Harvey Dent's fall from grace, him being completely torn in half through the Joker's chaos. You could see the I Believe in Harvey Dent White Knight being torn in half with the blah blah blahs and the ha-has that are written in the background. The Joker's chaos completely shows his contempt for the White Knight Harvey Dent. Alright, as far as the head sculpt goes, we're going to focus on the paint a little bit, but we're going to try to wrap this up as quick as possible because this figure has been reviewed 100 times already. So, you see how much the paint kind of looks flat and not as awesome as it did in the prototype pics, especially on the burnt side of the head. However, that's with the light blaring right on it. Again, we're in studio lighting, guys. However, when I move my hand just slightly in front of the light, you could see a lot more depth in the paint, especially overhead here. When I do this, it looks a little bit more gnarly. However, they dropped the ball as far as the paint on the bones and the teeth goes, and right up under here in the cheekbone, it should have been a little bit more, darker and kind of more bloodied up and a little bit darker reds for the muscles around the teeth. However, on this side, they really did a stellar job with the paint. It looks just like the actor. Obviously, the gloss in the eyes looks damn near perfect. He's got a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. I don't know if that's showing up, but he does, and it looks stellar. This side of the paint, this side of the head is where the paint really shines. Now, as far as the head sculpt and the top, the hair sculpt paint rather goes, you see how right over the ear and right at the back of the head, it's a little bit more layered. It's a little bit more browned into a goldish transition. You could see layers in the sculpt of the hair strands itself. They should have went and kept that consistent, in my opinion, at least for the top of the head, or at least gave it a little bit of a black wash, ever so slightly, because the top of the head kind of comes across as very just overly golden and not so much, you lose a little bit of the detail. You got to really look at it or get it right under the perfect lighting conditions to kind of get, you see right over here, right where here goes, down this way is where the paint really shines. It should have been a smidge, not darker, but just inside the strands themselves, like when you do a black wash on something and then you wipe it away, but the paint seems to soak inside the creeps and crevices. That's what they should have done, in my opinion, at least, so it doesn't come across as like a flat golden color. Also, it might have worked as if it was maybe a little bit lighter and not so much gold as opposed to like a dirty blonde effect. Now, here's something I wanted to point out as far as a nit goes, a little bit of an imperfection as far as I'm concerned. Take a look at this still shot of the movie. You could see on the left burnt side, it's much more darker where the collar is, and even though it's under low light, and I know movie film lighting and all that, it really gives you that burnt and kind of dirtied up and screwed up effect there. Now, when we go back to the figure here, you could see that even though it's white over here on this side, it is discolored, but it needed a little bit more. So if you guys are customizers out there and you want to get some paint, right, maybe get a little bit of black wash. I would be careful with that, though, because it's a little bit more watery. I know that they sell like charcoal colors where you can like rub maybe a little bit of the charcoal on the collar, kind of make it a little bit more darker. Definitely should have been darker. Especially since it's so burnt up and destroyed over here. To go into just a slight effect over here isn't good in my opinion. Moving down, however, to where the tie is, I see a lot of people talk about how the tie just kind of sticks out and doesn't land flat to the body. It kind of does ever so slightly on mine, not as much as I've seen in some of the other reviews. However, I know some people are taking the tie and tucking it back and putting it behind the jacket to keep it a little bit more flat. See how you push it down? And then, oh, look, it stayed because ever so slightly just barely touching that there. That's how you get it to kind of stick a little bit flatter to the body. You could also kind of like, see the belt here? You could kind of like maybe tuck it back a little, right? If you pull the jean, the pant down, do something like that. See how it's just slightly in that little piece there? That's a way to make it stick straight onto the body. But the tie is the perfect length, especially when you manipulate the pants. The tie is the perfect length, the way it's supposed to be as far as a gentleman's concerned when he wears a suit. Moving down, you might have to move the pants down a little bit to get that effect, which is good because down here, when you get your pants, when you get a suit tailored perfectly, and let's face it, this is the district attorney of Gotham City, the pants are supposed to ride a little bit lower than this. You see how it's just above this? Let's get the focus. See how it's just above the foot there? No good. This pant leg is supposed to be tailored right around here, and it's supposed to rest right. Why am I not getting this in focus? Right back this way is where the pants. So the pants should be down here, not up here. So you might want to manipulate that, pull the pants down a little bit, get them over the shoe, and really get them to sit perfectly. They needed to be like 1/8 of an inch longer on the pants, though. You may have to pull it down just a little bit farther because the tie is supposed to rest right above the belt line, which in fact would make, and this is supposed to ride right along, just along the back here as far as a perfect tailoring goes. So a little bit miss on the tailoring there. That's something that you might not care about. However, it's something I notice. Again, I'm trying to be super ultra critical of this whole thing here. And as far as the burn marks and the paint and stuff on the suit itself, it works pretty good. Be careful, though, because if you keep his arm up in like this coin flipping thing here, because this is like a tougher paint, you don't want that to crack. Again, word of advice, everybody, if you have Hot Toys in your basement or your collectible room, make sure you have a dehumidifier, especially if you're in the south part of the United States or someplace where there's a lot of moisture and stuff like that. You're going to want that because that'll prevent weathering on your figures in general. I don't mind that the tie doesn't sit straight up. It is a Windsor knot. For those of you that are into, fashion, it is a Windsor knot. Windsor knots, though, although it's supposed to be sitting straight up against the collar, it's fine here because he's two-faced, he's disheveled. He just got out of being half burnt. So that's fine that the tie is a little bit loose. That doesn't bother me as much at all. Other than that, you can see how the paintwork isn't just... When I took them out of the package, I was like, oh, did they just put like paint on here and then completely ignore this area? No, they didn't. It's actually a much darker suit piece over here. It is oiled up and stained, and it goes down into this discoloration down here. On the back of the suit, same thing. You can see it probably even better here. You see how it's like a lighter grayish blue over here and then much darker over here. So they did a good job with that. However, it does not transition down into the pants. The pants are pretty much untouched. I don't know if that's movie accurate or not, but it is what it is. Taking a look at this base real quick, you got the Two-Face insignia on there, and I'm not really one to like display bases like this. I like the flat black ones, these that lift the figures up, I'm not that crazy about, but this is dynamite. You got the coin out there in the background with the scratch marks on it. It's dark, it's nasty, it personifies Two-Face's darker side of his personality, and I think that's pretty awesome if you ask me. What you see is what you get, and I can't think of any other accessories this figure could have came with. Sometimes less is more, and here you have it. Although for the price we're paying, there is a little bit of a nit, and it has to do with the revolver, but I'll get into that in just a moment. I want to focus now on the smaller accessories. The I Believe in Harvey Dent Pin is like neck and neck as far as I'm concerned with this shot glass. Sometimes these little tiny accessories just add that little bit of extra. I really like this a lot. The I Believe in Harvey Dent Pin actually has a pin piece on the other side, which is a nice little piece of detail. They didn't have to add that. I'm glad they did. You got the Lady Liberty side here and the two other scratched up sides. All the coins are exactly the same. Now moving on to his revolver, there's not a lot of scuff marks to it. There's not a lot of details. It does look nice and brand new and silver, right? Very nice looking. However, it's not die cast. For the price we're paying, around $240, $250 something USD, around there. This should have been a heavier gun, but the hammer does move on this, right? You see that? And the barrel rolls, which to me is kind of silly. I guess it's a nice little neat detail in there, but it does pop open. If you flip it around here and you press, you see how it kind of opens there? Be careful though, because this barrel does slide out, and it actually slides out over here, right where my thumb is too. Be careful, that'll drop on the floor. You'll lose it, just like I did right before I started filming this. Moving along, get my hands out of the way to show you Harvey's hands. Now we come to expect this type of detail from Hot Toys, so there's really nothing else to look at here besides a nice little paint job they put on the hands, and I gotta say, I am satisfied. As stated in the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about how he fits in with the rest of your Dark Knight collection. I think he fits in pretty darn good. This is my entire Dark Knight collection. I was not going to do the entire Dark Knight line. As you can see, I'm missing Catwoman. I'm missing a Commissioner Gordon here and there, other things. I do have a Ra's al Ghul, but We don't talk about that on the channel. But I think he looks great. I think he's going to fit in wonderful with the rest of your figures. Obviously, the color is going to pop the most off of the Joker because, let's face it, he was the biggest focus of that trilogy. But Two-Face looks great. I think his colors match up pretty darn well. He could have came with the alternate portrait for Harvey Dent and maybe a cleaner jacket. But who the hell's going to display a Harvey Dent figure? Let's face it. We want to display Two-Face. At least that's what I want to display in my collection. So here you go. Here you have it. A nice, good shot of how he's going to fit in and how he's probably going to look in my Maju cases whenever the hell they decide to show up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of the Red Cup Review, and if you haven't already, smash that like button. Make sure you drop a comment. Let me know what you think of this edition of the Hot Toys 2.0 Two-Face, and of course, subscribe. I love Two-Face. I gave him a 4 out of 5 cups for the Red Cup Review because, to me, he had a great box art, and you know me, I don't really care about box art, but when I took him out, he went right up on the shelf. He looked great. He fits right in with the rest of the figures, and I gotta tell you, that's good enough for me. Yeah, the paint is a little bit missed, but I'm not right on top of my figures. I put them up on the shelf, I enjoy them, and once in a while when I dust them off, I repose them, and that's good enough for me, and hopefully it's good enough for you. So thanks for joining me, and we hope to see you on a future episode of the Red Cup Review. Take care.